first thing I'm going to do is use a compass to draw a circle and put a vanishing point in the middle. The vanishing point's the point where things are so far away they'd look so small they just disappear or vanish. When I'm drawing any form, I start with just a simple shape. I draw guidelines from the corners to the vanishing point. I'm going to draw some organic shapes for land to make this look kind of like the earth. And I am going to emphasize those lines to make skyscrapers coming up from um, different plots of land on the earth. So I start with the shape for the top of the building, guidelines from the corners to the vanishing point, and then parallel connecting lines. Lines that connect two guidelines I'm calling connecting lines. They should always be parallel to segments at the top of the form. Now, after I've drawn things, I'm going to erase various lines that go through the buildings. I'll probably erase parts of the guidelines that I don't need anymore. And while most of my buildings are rectangular forms, you can draw any sorts of shapes that you might want. If it's an organic form, I'm going to have similar curves at the bottom. I think of it like parallel curves at the bottom of the form. So the line segments at the top and bottom of the form are going to be the same. Now, after I've erased everything, I'm going to color using oil pastels. And I'm going to start by putting just a base coat of blue down for the water on the earth. But with oil pastels, you want to keep in mind a few things. Oil pastels are good when you color nice and solidly, get bright, bold, and solid colors, but also they're really good for blending by layering colors on top of each other. So I put a little bit of red near the perimeter to make it a little bit darker. I put white over the top of it in the middle to make it a little bit lighter. Then I'm going to move on to the greens, and I'll use some darker green, some lighter green, some yellow mixed together to get some variations within the ground. Because again, I don't want to have it all one flat shade. One of the things that oil pastels are really good for is blending and creating a range of hues and different values. Now, after I've drawn the ground and the water, I'm going to move on to coloring the buildings. And again, just like coloring anything else, I want to be layering and blending colors. So I usually make them lighter and brighter at the top because things closer to us are usually going to look brighter, and then I make it get a little bit darker and duller as it goes towards the bottom. As I'm using the black, I really want to emphasize the sort of verticality of it. So I draw a lot of lines that are going up from the ground towards the top of the building, which helps to emphasize that vertical element to it, as well as getting a little bit of shading or a little bit of value in there. When we talk about value in art, we are not talking about sort of price or anything like that. It's one of those odd art terms that we use. Value is referring to the lightness and darkness of the color or the shade. Value is essentially the shading on a drawing or a painting or anything like that. So I want to blend colors, I want to layer colors, color nice and solidly, get some orange, some red, maybe some pinks mixed in there, or I might mix in some yellow in some spots. And again, I pay attention to the direction that I'm moving the oil pastels. And in this case, I want to make the buildings look super tall, so I'm emphasizing the vertical lines because the direction of the lines will indicate the direction the form is going. Vertical lines are going to emphasize the height of it. So I guess that's about it. I'm just going to speed through the rest of the coloring here. And now I'm going to make a background for this. So I'm going to use chalk in this case to make just some little dots, smear the chalk dust to make a little glow like stars for the background. Since I'm showing the full earth, My background sheet should show a little bit of outer space, so I'm going to make a giant sun, blending a little bit of orange and yellow and red in there. And I'm going to cut out my earth with all of my nice skyscrapers. One common mistake people make is try to cut around the perimeter in one continuous cut. A lot of times it is easier if you take it in chunks, approaching it from different angles to get the pieces out. I'm going to put a thin line of glue around the perimeter, not right at the edge. I want to give it a little bit of distance so it doesn't squeeze out. Press it down, and done.